Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, my wife and I have been broadcasting on this channel for several months now. We're usually very happy, very upbeat about things, and we share with you our life experiences with our health journey, our wealth journey, etc. But tonight, it's going to be a little different. Trying to get this. There we go. Trying to simulcast as well. Right now we're live on YouTube. We're also live on TikTok. But I wanted to share with you something that I've been dealing with for over 15 years now, going on 16 years. I call it a father's journey. I've wondered for so many years where to start to tell my story of what I have been through, what I believe and suspect trying to get TikTok going here right now. What I suspect that many other men are going through, and unfortunately, what I suspect many other men will eventually also go through themselves. It's so hard to figure out how to flip. There we go. All right, finally got this thing going. And unfortunately, I think a lot of other men will unfortunately have to go through themselves. As I was sharing with you, I've tried to figure out for so many years how to tell my story, why to tell the story. Would it be of any benefit to anyone? Would it be a benefit to me? Who would benefit from it? So could anybody be harmed by me sharing the story? So after years of prayer and years of going through the story, I just feel really compelled to share it with you. As many of you know, I am a very experienced public presenter and public speaker. I am a minister in the Nation of Islam. I've been so since at least about 1991, 92. So I'm used to speaking in front of audiences. But I just thought that, and I call this a father's story, because it's a story of me as a father and what I've had to deal with specifically over the last 15 plus years, almost 16 years, but really I've dealt with ever since I became a father in 1997. I don't know how to get into it, so I'll just get into it. And please like, share, bookmark this lecture. We're not going to be able to get into the entire story tonight. I just wanted to begin it. Share this in any groups that you feel would be able to take advantage and be encouraged, or to know that they're not alone in this issue. So I'll get right to what the issue was. 15 years ago, I was accused of assaulting my own children by my ex-wife, my wife at the time, but now my ex-wife, 15 years ago. Uh, it was a shock to me, as you could absolutely believe. I was a happy father of three children, two girls and one boy. All of them now are of majority age, so that is another reason why I felt it was an appropriate time to begin to share this story. Uh, I don't know how else to do it but to actually tell the story. My wife and I at that time, again, we had been married since 1994, and then 2 years after that, 2.5 years after that, we had our first child. So I was a very happy father. As I mentioned, we are members of the Nation of Islam. And sometime in approximately November of 2010, my sister and her husband at the time were having a party, having a deployment party for her husband. Her husband was a helicopter pilot in the United States Army and was getting deployed to, I think at that time it was, I believe it was Iraq. And we were going to go down from Charlotte, North Carolina to the Atlanta metro area for this party. At that time, my then wife uh, had achieved she had her undergraduate bachelor's degree, and she was working on her master's degree from the University of Phoenix. So I said, hey, my sisters, I'm going to try not to use any names of people on this, but maybe you'll be able to figure out who these names are. And my wife at the time said, well, I said, well, she's having this party for him to going away deployment party. We can drive down. Well, she said, well, I have a lot of work to do with my master's program. I said, well, no problem. I can copy that work, your folder from the computer, from the home desktop, copy that to a laptop, and you can sit there in the car and do whatever you have to do. If you have to go off to the side at my mother's house or my sister's house and work on you can do that, but we'll be able to see the family and the children will be able to see the family. So she agreed to that. So I said, I'll copy the files from the desktop to the laptop. She said, oh no, I'll do it. I said, well, it's no problem. I can do it. I had, the laptop right there. I think I was already sitting at the down at the computer, much like I'm sitting here with you this evening. And she said, oh, no, I'll do it a little more forcefully. And then I'm like, oh, it's no problem, no big deal. So I go to where the folder is. I knew where the folder was, where she kept her work. And as I go and approach this folder, she begins to shove me out of the way and more forcefully says, I'll get it. And she's pushing me away. Then she starts trying to fight the mouse out of my hand. Kind of perplexed. I said, I don't know what's going on. And then she starts literally hitting me, trying to push me and hit me away from the computer. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? Now I want to see what's in this folder. So I try to copy the folder, and she's still trying to wrestle the mouse away from me. And I copy the files, and I try to copy the files over to the laptop. And I'm noticing it's taking a really long time to copy these files, an inordinately long amount of time. Shouldn't it take this long for some Word documents, some Excel spreadsheets, maybe a few PDFs for class syllabuses, etc., and so on. So I'm looking at it, and now she sees me click into the folder, and she's getting really agitated, really trying to now really wrestle. She comes back and wrestles me. I'm like, now I really want to see what's in this folder. I didn't know what I was going to see in this folder. And as I look into one of the subfolders of the folder, because I know my background is IT, so I know how to sort them by size. I notice the largest of the folders, and I go into the largest of the folders, and I notice in there some AVI files, some video files. Now I'm really wondering. I'm really scared. I'm like, what are these video files here? I was really surprised that there were video files there. And then when I saw them, I didn't know what to expect to see on these particular video files. Yes, yes, she was an MGT. Forgive me, I'm trying to keep up with the questions. Yes, she was an MGT. So I go and look at these video files, and what I see is my wife kind of moving. Remember, this is 2010, so video on your camera, excuse me, on your phone wasn't as clear as it is now. So we had a video camera, so you could see her adjusting the video camera in my daughter's room. She adjusts the video camera, and you can see her moving some items around, almost like she's hiding or concealing the camera in my daughter's room. So then my wife at the time walks out of the room, the camera's still rolling. Then my daughter comes into the room, gets in the bed, goes to sleep. Then I fast forward through the video. It's probably about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours of video. I can't remember how many. I still have these video files to this day. And after that, you see that it get dark in the room, and you see it get light in the room from the sun. And then my daughter gets up, leaves out of the room. A little while later, my wife at the time, comes in the room and turns off the camera. And I looked at her as I'm sitting there looking at these files for the first time. I didn't know if I was going to see my wife with another man on these videos. I didn't know what I was going to see on these video files. I looked at her and I said, "You too?" Now you're probably wondering, well, why did I say that? Here's why I said that. Approximately 4 or 5 years prior to this, my wife's sixth sister had accused her then husband at the time of abuse. And I'm not going to say the full words because I don't know what words YouTube doesn't like and what words TikTok doesn't like. But she was accused of that horrific form of abuse by my wife's sister, accused her husband of doing that 4 years prior to this 2010 incident that I started going through. So when I saw that my wife had set up a camera in my daughter's bedroom, I'm like, she thinks I'm abusing my own daughter? So I said to her, "You too?" Now, I didn't know a whole lot about the incident or the accusations between my ex-sister-in-law and her husband. But I had heard a conversation of my wife having with her sister during that time, 4 years prior to 2010. And you know how you hear somebody having a conversation, but you only hear one side of the conversation. And I'm hearing my ex-wife at the time saying, "Huh? What? No. Really? Get out of here. No. What?" So she gets off the phone, and I say, "What were you talking about with her?" And she says to me, "Kevin, you'll never believe this." And I'm not going to use the names. I'm going to say John Doe and John Doe 1. She says, John Doe is messing with John Doe the second. I said, "What?" She said, "What do you mean messing with? John Doe 1 is messing with John Doe 2. John Doe 1 was the father. John Doe 2 was his son. And my wife's sister was the spouse and the mother of this child." I said, "You know your sister is crazy." And she was. She was documented insane, crazy. Documented medical condition, still documented to this day, receiving a check from the government. I said, "You know your sister's crazy. John Doe 1 ain't messing with his son, his 4-year-old son. That doesn't even sound like John Doe 1." You believe that? I don't know. And I never heard anything again about that incident. But I remember that incident when I saw this video camera set up in my daughter's room. And I said to myself, she's trying to catch me abusing my own daughter. And I said to her, you too, in other words, you believe this of your husband as well, like your crazy sister? Well, long story short, fast forwarding a little bit, and I've got everything I'm going to be sharing with you over the next weeks and months. I've got court records, documentation, including this case against my brother-in-law and my ex-wife's sister, accusing him falsely and accusing his mother of the worst type of assault that you can think of. Got all the court records. Newsflash and spoiler alert, we were both cleared of everything. But it took years to get it completely cleared of. And at the same time, these people are actually brainwashing children to believe these accusations to be true. Okay, so here I am sitting. I've already committed to going to my sister's husband's deployment party. I just got hit with a ton of bricks that knocked me out. It was pretty much a blur for me from the time I realized that she was accusing me of this in November of 2010. And somehow I drove from Charlotte, North Carolina to Atlanta, Georgia. I don't even remember driving. I don't remember the trip. I don't remember how I got there. I got there without them. I just got in the car and drove without them. And all my family members said, as soon as I got there, they said, you look like you've seen a ghost, which I did. I was accused of the worst thing that a man could possibly be accused of. And it was the beginning of a years-long fight to clear my name and reclaim my family, reclaim my good name, and to reclaim what was really important to me, reclaim the children that I so dearly loved. So I think tonight this is a good place to stop this particular video. But let me go a little bit further, because we ended with me going to my brother-in-law's deployment party in Atlanta, Georgia. But I didn't think about it again after I got back from the deployment party. I didn't even know what to say to my wife. But the next thing I knew, 3 weeks later, I was hit with 3 documents. I was hit with a Chapter 50B restraining order. In that restraining order were the accusations against me. This is all unbeknownst to me. It hit me. Now I got another 2 tons of bricks hitting me. It detailed all these accusations of the worst type of abuse that a man could be accused of dealing with children. Also, it accused me of physical abuse against my ex-wife. Later, over the next few days, so then I was actually physically removed from the home that we had purchased. At that time, 2010, we had been in that home for 16 years. 16 years we had been in that home. 16 years we were paying on that mortgage. Everything was paid for. Everything was up to date. Mortgage up to date. Credit A1, perfect credit. I was removed from my own house. In the next few days, I also received a letter or a call from DSS, Division of Social Services, Child Agency. A case was opened against me there. And I also received a call from a detective who was investigating charges of that type of abuse that I'm not going to say here because I don't know whether YouTube and TikTok like that word or not, but the worst type of abuse that a man could be accused of against a child or against his own child. So now I've got 3 issues that I have to deal with. And any of you who have had these issues, men I'm talking about, these sometimes are the court system and legal justice system are sometimes weaponized against men. Now, as you see, I'm a member of the Nation of Islam, a minister in the Nation of Islam, but I'm just not talking just to Muslims. I'm not just talking to black people. I'm not discriminating. We're not discriminating at all when we're talking about this because this is done, unfortunately, universally against all men, regardless of your race. So the court system is often weaponized against us. And quite often, disgruntled women or women who want to get out of relationships will level these false charges against men, particularly physical abuse charges against men. And of course, the worst of those charges are false charges of the worst kind of abuse that a man could perpetuate against a child. Now, all those types of abuses are expressly forbidden and frowned upon and can get you in major trouble, not just with the American jurisprudence system, but in the Nation of Islam. So I'm having to deal with all types of horrific things. And many of the Muslims who know me very well and knew that this was happening to me, abandoned me. There was one in particular who did not abandon me. And I have spoke on this issue and spoke on this incident in very general terms at times as I was lecturing at this minister's temple in Atlanta, Georgia, Minister Eric Muhammad. But I would mention it in very short and general terms, just to know that if you stand on principle that God will support you and back you. And I'm saying that for those of you who are listening, that you stand on your principles and you know that you didn't do these things and stand on your principles. But also you have to navigate these false accusations very, very, very carefully. So fortunately, a brother who I was very close with from Charlotte at the time recommended another brother who happened to be a member of the same fraternity that I pledged to help me with the legal assistance. Had I not had that legal assistance, I could very well have been railroaded or had false accusations and me saying the wrong things or doing the wrong things used against me. Fortunately, I sought out legal representation. I did research on this phenomenon of men being falsely accused. And if this ever happens to you, it starts very subtly, though. It may not be the big bombshell of that type of abuse or physical abuse right away. It may be something as simple as your spouse taking the kids and taking them to their mama's house, to their mother's house, or to another relative's house. I will share with you from my knowledge, and I'm not a lawyer, I can't give legal advice. But the first thing that needs to be done, if your wife takes your children away from their home where they grew up in, that is called a disruption of normal life. And you can't do that to a child. So if your spouse does that, where they take them and you don't have to beg with them on the phone, please bring her back, you need to file legal paperwork. You can do this at any of your self-service centers at your county courthouse. You can go and file what's called an emergency order of custody. If your wife suddenly takes the children, that's the sign that she'll use the children as a weapon against you. The fact that she'll take them and leave their house, your house, and disrupt their lives to get back at you. To prevent her from doing that, you can file an emergency order of custody. And the basis of that emergency order of custody would be because that spouse has disrupted the children's life without cause. You just can't snatch up a child because that alone is detrimental to the child. That move alone in the child's mind, even though they may not be old enough to interpret it, is enough to begin making the, well, why is mama taking us away? Maybe something is wrong with my dad. And the longer they stay away from their childhood home, their sense of security, their place of security, their place of normalcy, the further they will drift away from you, the father, as the disgruntled woman begins to weaponize the children against you. This is what happened in my case. I didn't know at that time that I should have filed an emergency order of custody, because prior to November 2010, when she made the accusations, she took the children to another state where she was living with her, where her parents lived, and took the children down there, disenrolled them from school without me knowing, and placed them in another school down there in another state. I should have filed an emergency order of custody, which would have brought the children back to me. Little did I know that the children were being brainwashed against me during that time by my wife, by her parents, and by her siblings, which included her sister, who had accused her husband 4 years earlier of the exact same thing, which, I later found out through legal paperwork, was completely and totally unfounded. So I think this is a good place to end right now. I feel good to have gotten this, to begin to get this off of my chest. But ladies and gentlemen, we have not even begun to scratch the surface of what has taken place with me over these last 15 years. Spoiler alert, I was cleared and exonerated of any wrongdoing after about 2 years, legally, in the court, in the criminal investigation, in the civil charges and claims, and in the Department of Social Services investigation. I was cleared in about 2 years. It took 2 years to clear me. And at the end of those 2 years, I was granted custody of all 3 children, and I became a single father. But what I didn't know was how bad and how deeply the brainwashing had begun and continued in my children to be turned against me, their father, who had always been there for them. So as always, I want you to like, share, subscribe, share this video with whoever you like, whoever you think may benefit from it. Share their channel with them. You can also reach out to me at my email address, rkevinali@gmail.com. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I can share with you some of the steps that you can take even before you have to retain and pay for a lawyer to help protect yourself, and some of the signs to look for if your spouse is planning on weaponizing the court system against you as a man. And let me say this, the court system is tilted, and the social service system, unfortunately, is tilted way in favor of the woman. But it is slowly changing to make it more balanced, as even studies are showing that actually there is no improvement in outcomes for the children just because they're placed with the women. And some studies are showing that children actually have better outcomes when they are placed with the father. And you can see the outcomes of women being placed in, of children being placed in single family homes that are run mostly by women. Again, that is what we see the majority going on in our community, especially the Black community, but other communities as well. Now, I'm not trying to disparage any good woman out there. That's not my main. I'm not trying to bash women. I'm not trying to do that at all. I'm not talking about you good women, you good single mothers in particular. You've got to look at the macro of this. I'm not sure what the statistics are. I'll look at the statistics for next time. But if the majority of single family households are run by women, and we have the types of issues that we're dealing with in our community, probably a lot of you won't like me saying this either. I'm not homophobic. I'm not afraid of homosexuals. But there has been a proliferation of homosexuality in our community that has correlated very closely with the increase in single family households. So I will say that, as a Muslim, that I don't endorse or believe in homosexuality or any of those types of things. Anybody who engages in that lifestyle, I don't disparage you. I don't uh, say anything should be done to you. I don't talk down against you. You are free to practice whatever lifestyle you want to practice. I am free to tell you that I don't believe that that is a practice that God is in approval of. But I don't believe in abusing, mistreating anyone for their beliefs or for their practices. I treat everyone with dignity and respect, no matter what their lifestyle is, as long as they are dignified and respectful with me. But we do have to deal with the statistics. Something is wrong in the United States of America when it comes to single family households. And there are many men's advocacy groups that are working diligently to reverse the thinking in court system to let them know that the male, is just as capable of being the sole custody provider and parent in a single family household as a woman is. So I just wanted to share that with you. Again, this is a good place to cut off. I haven't had a chance really to read the TikTok live questions. I saw a few questions here in YouTube. I did want to thank you for tuning in, and please bookmark this channel, bookmark this TikTok account. We will be going more into this, and we will be sharing more of this story in the coming days, weeks, and months. Thank you this evening for listening, and thank you for indulging me. I really appreciate your support and appreciate the time you spent with me to listen to a father's story. Take care this evening, and God bless.